This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hey everyone, pet lovers, pet people, pet parents, welcome to Best Bets for Pets. I'm your show host, Michelle Fern. Today I have a special guest with me, Cheryl Kaye. She is the host of our fantastic show, Unleashed by Cheryl Kaye. And we're going to be talking about some of our favorite products. So don't move, stay where you are. We'll be right back after this message. Hey everyone, Michelle Fern here, your host on Best Bets for Pets and Catitude. Ben and Jerry's has frozen treats for dogs. I know Nikki is going to love this. He loves a frozen treat. They have two different flavors. One is Punch's Mix, which is peanut butter and pretzel, and the other one is Rosie's Batch, which is pumpkin and mini cookies. You know, I kind of like both of those flavors too, but my absolute favorite is fish food. Anything Ben & Jerry's is always fabulous because the quality is so good and their mixes are so delicious. Be sure to check out more about these frozen dog desserts as well as pictures of all the caniners at the Ben & Jerry's Vermont office at benjerry.com. That's BENJERRY.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We are with Cheryl Kaye today, and we're chatting about some of our favorite products. So, Cheryl, let's talk about brushes, because there's so many kinds of brushes, whether it's for your cat, your dog, maybe your ferret, maybe
rabbit,
you know, who knows? But anything with fur, you need a brush.
Right. So
what are some of your favorites?
Well, for some animals, and you know, different dogs have different levels of fur, So I would say I like a shredder blade for, very thick fur, maybe for German Shepherds, maybe, for maybe some of the collie breeds. And then, there's just some really good brushes. I know they came out with something you put on gloves and they're rubber. And even for my cats, I use a brush. But, the whole thing was with brushing and shedding, depending on the type of the season, also is you have to brush them, if not daily, certainly more than once a week. Especially, spring and the fall, winter, because they shed more.
Plus you have their winter coat, then you have their summer coat. So you have 2 seasons a year when they're naturally just really shedding a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they invented poodles.
Yep. I like the shed blade, except you have to be careful with it. If you tend to, like I do, write hard or do anything like that, you're probably not gonna, maybe not want to use a shed blade, or just really be gentle, because you can never tell how hard you're pressing. And even if your pet has a lot of fur, unless it's super, super, super thick fur, it could hurt them. So just be careful with it. I've used the shed gloves before. Actually, we're not naming any product names on this show, but they were on Best Bets for Pets. And I found them to be fabulous because especially with the cats, because while you're holding the cat, you're just petting them,
right,
all the hair comes off. And it's great for cats because cats tend to get a little bit more nervous around any kind of brush. And so with the gloves on, you're basically just petting them. It's like your hands. They don't feel,
right,
the bristles or a blade or anything
but they're
like that.
They're rubber also. So it would be much better for, maybe a small dog and certainly a cat. But I had some kind of shredder. It wasn't a blade though, but it did get underneath. It's almost like a 2-step. You shred and then you use a brush to collect it. And I think that some groomers, I don't know specifically, but I've read that some groomers use certain shampoos that help in reducing shedding.
I've heard that too, that there are some great shampoos on the market that do reduce shedding. Personally, I haven't experienced any of the shampoos that totally eliminate shedding. And right now, since my major fur babe, who was always shedding. He has passed. And so my dog now, he's Havanese. He doesn't really shed. And then there's cats, which you don't bathe. Well, not mine anyways.
Well, I bathe mine.
So I haven't really used any of the non-shedding shampoo lately, but I've heard great things about them.
But also, when animals get older, their fur changes. So they could even shed more when they get older. And it really depends. I guess it just, every animal is different, just like every person is different. But I think you should brush your animals if you can, certainly weekly, if not daily or every other day, whether you're looking to. It has nothing to do with shedding. It's just a good part of grooming. Like you wouldn't walk around and not brush your hair.
The other thing besides just, we're talking about shedding mostly with the brushes, but what it also does is it stimulates the oil glands in your pet's hair follicles. It also helps from
their skin.
Helps the skin. Yep. And also from any matting and knots, which, if you have a long-haired cat and you're not on top of it, the matting and the knots can be a problem because they're much harder to cut out. And sometimes it's just over time because it's so close to the it happens close to the skin many times. So
I know, but I was a pro at it. With Daniel Boone, I would definitely cut it out and then you could brush it, but it just gets to be too much, so I brush, I only have Cheyenne now, but I brush her daily, but her fur is changing because she's getting older.
Okay, let's talk about another product. Since we've kind of talked a little bit of cats, let's talk about catnip. I really like this kind. I met them at a trade show a couple years ago, but it's just fun. It's Meowawana. How fun is that?
It's a fun name.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
I couldn't even imagine how you would spell it.
Well,
Meowweed.
Yeah, Meowawana. And it actually, I know we weren't going to talk about brands, but I'm making an exception for this one because, hey, I am. And it comes in glass jars. It actually looks like buds of marijuana, but of course it's not. I think it's all organic. And
well, that's
it's
what catnip is.
Yeah, it's a party for your cat. So there you go. What is your thought on catnip?
Oh, daily I would give it to them. It's very good for their digestion also.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. And it's also, besides just for them to play with it, it's also good to get them used to, as a training tool, to get them used to using a scratching post. If you, get a new cat tree, to get them to try out the cat tree. So it's good for things like that, for training.
And it's good to keep it in glass because if I tell you that I have catnip in a glass jar that must be 40 years old and it's still as potent now as it was then. It's just not the new stuff, just like the real stuff is different.
Okay, well, I don't know about vintage catnip, but
it's vintage. That's what it is.
Vintage. 40 years old is vintage for sure.
If I take off the cover and I let them smell it, or Cheyenne, she will follow me anywhere. Yeah, it's the smell that gets them, and then they eat it. I crumple it. I don't give it in chunks, but I crumple it, and they lick it right up, and then they'll find a toy, get a little energetic, and it's very good for their stomach.
Well, it's good for like playtime too. It gets them a little. So I don't know. Some cats seem to get calmer. My cats get jazzed up with it.
Oh yeah, but then they get calm because they still need a 20-hour nap during the day. Come on.
Yeah, of course. So tell me, what is one of your new products that you've seen?
I like the calming vest. I know you could use a towel, but it seems like from what I've been reading, this one vest, it doesn't look that heavy, but from what I've read, they also recommend that you keep it on the pet, not, 24/7, but you don't just take it off when you think that the animal is finished with it, meaning you get the animal used to wearing it and they just feel comfort. It makes them feel secure. And that's what anxiety is, the opposite of anxiety for a lot of pets. Some animals, you walk by the house, they bark, or, you ring the doorbell, they bark, and they don't stop. That's anxious.
That's Nikki.
Right.
The thing about the calming vest, and there's a few other kinds of products that are similar. And the premise is that when the pet is held secure, it brings up that natural feeling it evokes calmness. So for whether it's thunderstorms or fireworks or loud banging noises, or, if you're having a remodeling done in your home, or anything that provokes anxiety in your pet, that's when
Oh, definitely
the
for
calming
the
best.
fireworks. I mean, I have a friend, she would have to take her dog into the basement and put music on. Music also helps, but they feel it. It's loud for us, but for animals, it's a horror. And the last thing is, for me, is lavender shampoo and lavender oil, which also helps in anxiety. Even if, they even have it in sprays, but you could just put oil a little on, the dog or the cat's skin, and it happens to be very good for their skin. And they use lavender oil or lavender shampoo or bath wash for autistic children. Lavender is calming. It also helps you sleep better.
Well, on that thought too, there's been a lot with CBD oils because it also has the effect of being relaxing and calming for your pet.
Yeah.
And,
the central nervous system.
Right. And I think with both, you want to be careful on the dosage, and be careful of where you're getting the product to make sure that I think organic is really the way to go for lavender oil, CBD. Try to go organic. Make sure you know that the company's reputable. If the company's transparent, which means they have a third party analyze the product and the third party gives a list of the ingredients so it is what it's supposed to be. That's even better. But they're both great tools to use to calm your pet. And a calm pet is
a loving pet.
Well, not only is it a loving pet, but it's a pet that will be loved, because one of the biggest problems with people adopting so much is that they'll adopt a pet and then they'll get the pet home. And let's say they adopted a dog, they get the little dog home, dog's so cute. And then, something happens, there's a noise or something, the dog gets anxious, which, anybody coming into a new place, gets a little bit anxious, right? And right away, the person adopting
it's amazing that you said that, because just today, a dog that was in a shelter for 400 days, absolutely gorgeous dog. They fell in love with the dog. They took him home. Guess what? They brought him back the next day because he was too hard to handle. Are you kidding me?
There's a couple things with that. One, the shelter or place that adopted the dog didn't do a good job of explaining what's going to happen. And also, the prospective pet parents did not do a good job in researching and anticipating what would happen. So it's kind of on the fault of both, but we're due for our break, so we're going to be right back after this break.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back, right after we kibble a little with our sponsors.
Hey everybody, Michelle Fern here. When you have dogs and cats living in your house, there's always a time when you have to be a detective, find out who left the present on the rug, who chewed up your new shoes, or who ripped open that bag of chips on the counter. Well, as a detective, I've discovered June's Journey. It's a fun new game where you search for hidden objects to solve a murder mystery. I've even found clues that were dogs, cats, birds, and other animals. With new chapters every week, June's Journey is a wonderful way to keep my memory and observation skills sharp. And hey, it's fun racking up those points. Join the 30 million fans worldwide and download June's Journey free to your phone or tablet on the Apple app or Google Play Store today.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about just some products and things that we have found in the past few weeks that we really love for your pets. I want to finish up when you said about the pets and the dog that was adopted, that people brought him back the next day. For anyone that is considering adopting or has a friend, a neighbor, family member considering adopting, make sure you know as much as you can about the behavior of the animal. And I'm going to tell you a real quick story that happened with a family member. They adopted a dog, and this dog was from Puerto Rico. And it was during the hurricane, so it was a couple years ago, and came home with the dog and had no idea how neurotic the dog was. They had a crate, to crate train the dog, which is really good because dogs, if nobody's at home or in certain times, the dog can actually hurt themselves. I believe in crate training. So the dog broke through the crate. He chewed up wooden blinds. He was banging his head to break the glass.
He's probably been
here's the
kept
thing.
captive.
Well, here's the thing. Then my family member, they said, you know what, let's see what we could do. Let's, try to do, this and that. So they tried a couple things. They had someone stay with them during the day. On the third day, they actually borrowed a crate from me. He chewed through the crate. He was bleeding. He, again, was bashing his head. And it wasn't that the crate was ruined or their blinds were chewed to bits or anything like that. But the fact that this dog is hurting himself and they were not prepared for any of this extreme neurotic behavior. Now, this is a case where the shelter should have prepared them. The shelter should have said, this dog is extremely neurotic. And what they had found out later was the dog had never lived inside. The dog was from the streets of Puerto Rico, never been inside. So in this case, I really, truly blame the shelter, because when you have an extreme case like that, you need to let the people know. They would have needed, like Cesar Millan or someone with, Brandon McMillan, somebody with such, so talented in all kinds of means of behavior, maybe Arden Moore, right, to really know the behavior. So in that case, this is something extreme. But for most of us, just do your homework, find out if when you're considering adopting or if you know someone's considering adopting, what to expect and as much as you can about the behavior of the pet. Because a lot of times people do things, a dog might growl if a child goes to take away his bone, but it's just a noise. That's how they're talking, saying, hey, don't take away my bone. Now that's one thing, a little growl. It's another thing if the dog goes to a lunge and attack your child. You don't want that.
Well, I'll tell you, now that you brought that up, because it's been in the papers quite a number of times. It is wonderful I was raised with a dog. They had the dog before me. But parents should not leave a child, a baby, alone with any animal. And instead of taking pictures.
Totally agree.
Instead of taking pictures that you could put on Facebook and TikTok, spend time. Because a child was just killed for going near a dog's food. That's food aggression. I mean, how do you not know that about your dog? So I just think my way of thinking is whenever I got a pet is, first of all, it takes a long time when you do bring a pet home for them to become the dog that they are. Maybe they're afraid to bark. Maybe they pee in the house. It's because they're scared. And we don't know where. Some of these dogs were abused, so they have to learn to trust. But what I always found with me is when I bring an animal home, I'll stay with them for a little while. And then I'll go outside for 10 minutes and I'll come back and I'll spend some time with them. And I do this over the next few days because what I'm showing them is I'm not leaving them. They could trust me because we don't know a lot about the history of dogs. I don't care what shelter you go to. I've gotten animals and I heard one story. And then the next time I went back and they were asking me how the pet was doing, it was a total other story. So, and that's okay. But you have to make a commitment when you get a pet, unless they, this dog that was wrecking the place or whatever this dog did. I'm not talking about your family.
No, but this dog that they adopted, they just were not prepared for this extreme anxiety. And it wasn't that the dog broke blinds or anything like that. The dog was banging its head against the window. The dog was bleeding. They had no idea how to train a dog like this. And they were upset that the shelter did not inform them. This is such an extreme case, but it exists out there. So, on this show, we communicate with a lot of different people. A lot of different people hear us. And this is just something to keep in mind. Most shelters are going to be very upfront. I would say 99%, they're very upfront. They will tell you if this dog has extreme behavior issues, if you have a young child, or if you're not with the dog all day, he's, going to be extremely anxious, blah, blah, blah. And they weren't even told that the dog had never been lived inside. So I think it was neglectful on point of the shelter. But that's extreme.
But there's some street dogs that it's the dog's personality. And, and if you're not really a dog person and had a lot of different dogs, that unfortunately, this was so far away, so it didn't really matter. They really should have. There are some shelters that let you come and walk the dog. You come back, you could build up a bond with the dog. So they try to do a good thing. And, it's sad because there's just so many animals that just don't get homes. And unfortunately, they're put down.
Well, I think this dog was hopefully adopted by someone who could spend a lot of time training. However, my family member found another dog to adopt, and they did adopt, and both dogs that they were older dogs, I think about a year old, they weren't puppies. And the second one they adopted was their love. So, and she's still with them. So everything turned out
that's
great.
a happy story.
A happy story. But we're talking about products, but we kind of went long-winded here, but I think justly so. But I also wanted to mention, I totally agree with you. Never leave a child alone with your pet. I don't care how well the pet's trained. You never know. Children, they go to pull, especially toddlers. They're always pulling and touching things, and it's, soft fur to them.
It's
and
not
you
safe.
Never know 100% what a dog's going to do. You're not in their brain. Just like I don't like dogs ever off leash because you never know 100% what a dog's going to do. But that's another show. All right, let's talk about another thing. We're recording the show in April, and April, May, where I live, June, most of the summer, it's rainy and it's muddy and it's wet. I really love the wipes that you can get for your pet. They're indispensable. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I like that because especially with, depends on where you would walk your dog. First of all, the pavement could be hard. But even if you walk your dog at a park on the grass, it makes it smart now to if you could wipe their paws when you bring them in. Because whatever they've stepped on, they're bringing in just like we're bringing in our shoes on the bottom. So I like that idea.
Exactly. And one, you can't use sanitizer or sanitized wipes on your dog's feet because they contain alcohol and it's drying, and that's going to be hurtful. It's not going to be good for your dogs. But what you can use are wipes, especially the wipes that are made for your dog. I would strongly recommend that you use wipes made for pets, because what happens when you wipe your dog's feet, they come inside, what do? They lick them. So if you're using a wipe that's made for people, it could contain things that are not meant to be digested. Right. And that's why you need wipes for your dog. Now, some people say, well, I'll use baby wipes, they're for babies, whatever. Yeah, I guess they're okay, but I would still stick with the wipe.
They probably have lanolin in them.
I mean, most baby type wipes are mostly water. But they do contain other things like preservatives. They just contain other things. So why not be safe and get a wipe that's made for your dog? Because, they're going to lick their feet.
Right.
They always do.
Or they're going to jump on your bed or on your white couch and whatever.
That's why you don't buy a white couch.
I don't have a white couch. I never would have a white couch.
Never. Actually, when I went shopping for furniture, it was with pets in mind. Because, hey, if you're a pet parent, you have furniture that goes with your pets. You can't have white leather furniture for the most part and have, active pets in your home. Maybe if you have just like a little furry, poodle or something, but I don't know. In my world, it just doesn't work that way. I have too many cats and a dog, and things just get a little messy. So I buy furniture that I know is pet proof or as pet proof as possible.
No, pet friendly.
Pet friendly. Yes, pet friendly. Thank you. So let's talk about what are some other products, Cheryl, that you're looking at for coming up that are going to be handy, for, I don't know, when all this quarantine business ends.
I want to talk about leashes. I don't like those leashes. First of all, I don't know how to use them, but I don't like those leashes that you could go out 40 feet and your animal is in the next county. I can't figure that out.
You mean the flexi type leashes?
Yeah.
See, I do like them.
But that's not walking with your dog. That's your dog walking you.
Well, what I like about them is it lets my dog have a chance to explore a little bit.
Yes, that I agree with.
And then,
in a secure area.
But I don't let my dog go 40 feet and then it's, but it does, if I'm in an open grassy area, it lets my dog run around a little bit.
In full transparency, I don't know how to use them. So when I have used them, it has been 40 feet because I don't know how to fix it.
I'll teach you. It's not hard.
I'm sure. I just never, old school.
You know what? Most trainers will agree with you, though. They prefer leashes. I think the standard is 6 feet long. And I also found out there's a certain way they should be held. They should not be ever wrapped around your wrist. They should be held with your, your palm of your hand and your thumb.
Right.
Because if your dog yanks really hard, depending on how big your dog is, you can break your wrist.
Right.
And I see so many people have them wrapped around their wrist. And
you mean with the leather?
Leash. Right.
Yeah.
They have it wrapped around their wrist to hold it closer. And that's not the way. You're supposed to have it. There's this, held and with your thumb so that if for some reason, if your dog does take off and it's more than you can handle, you're able to let go.
Well,
it's either that or a broken wrist.
Well,
so,
I guess if your dog is trained to heel, what you're talking about, the ones that move, what do they call them? Zip or something? Zip.
Oh, flexi leashes,
flexi
type leashes.
I guess that wouldn't be bad. Like you say, if your dog wants to, investigate, whatever, IP
it gives them a little space and they're still on the leash. So they're still, you're able to have control over them, but it gives them a little room to, explore and smell stuff.
It's called checking their IP address.
Yeah, checking their IP address.
Okay, that's good. I'll defer that. But, any dog that I've ever had or I will have will heel. And those flexi leashes, they're not really for big dogs, are they?
I've used them my dog, I've used them for a 60-pound and 40-pound. So,
Okay.
I mean, 100 something, I don't know, but I've used them for big dogs. I think for a dog that's a little 90, 100 and so forth, you want the 6 feet. You want them to be close by, but I think they do sell flexi leashes for that size, but I would say probably a 6 foot because you want a dog of that size to really be in your control and letting them lead out, 10, 12 feet. They're not really in your control.
Right. Right.
So,
especially if there are other animals around and they're going to sniff each other.
Yep, have a party. Well, Cheryl, we're kind of at the end of our show for this episode of our favorite products. So tell us again about
spring edition
of our favorite products. Thanks so much for coming on Best Bets for Pets and sharing your favorite products for spring on our show.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a really fun show. I hope you guys had a great time listening to the spring edition of mine and Cheryl Kaye's favorite products. I want to thank my testers, which is Nikki, Charlotte, Molly, Dennis, Jethro, and Sammy, for testing the products and making me be a better pet mom all the time. Thanks to my buddy Cheryl Kaye for coming on Best Bets for Pets. Thanks to everyone listening. Without you, there wouldn't be a Best Bets for Pets. We're going on 11 years. Wow. And especially thanks so much to my producer, Mark Winter, for making me and my guests sound amazing.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.